I'm Zoe, 30 years old, and if you'd told me 5 years ago that my life would become a twisted tale of betrayal and redemption, I'd have laughed in your face. Trust is like a handcrafted vase. One tiny crack, and the whole damn thing shatters. That's what I've learned building the Artisan's Nook, my online brand of ethical, handmade home goods, from a weekend market stall to a name splashed across design magazines. It's also what I'd learned loving Caleb, the man I thought was my rock, only to watch him chip away at everything I built: our family, my business, my heart. Back when I started, I was just a girl with a knack for curating unique pieces. Woven throws from Navajo artisans, ceramic mugs fired by a potter in Vermont, that kind of thing. I'd haul my finds to local markets in Portland, Oregon, where the mist clings to the streets like a soft gray shawl. My hands were always stained with clay or dye, my hair a mess of curls tucked under a scarf, but I was alive with purpose. That's when I met Caleb. He was a manager at some mid-tier retail chain, crisp in his button-down, but his eyes lit up when he saw my stall. "You're making art you can live with," he said, and I was hooked. He had this easy charm, a way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. We got married 2 years later, and soon Nora and Levi came along, our little chaos makers with their sticky fingers and endless giggles. Life felt like one of my curated collections. Perfectly imperfect, every piece in place. The Artisan's Nook grew faster than I ever dreamed. What started as an Etsy shop became a full-blown e-commerce site, with features in Dwell and House Beautiful. Customers loved our story: sustainable, authentic, supporting small artisans. I'd spend hours in my home office, a cozy nook with exposed brick and fairy lights, answering emails, sketching product ideas, or video calling artisans to check their work. Caleb was my biggest cheerleader back then. He'd handle logistics, inventory, shipping, the boring stuff, so I could focus on the creative side. "We're a team, Zoe," he'd say, kissing my forehead as I pored over spreadsheets late at night. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was my husband, the father of our kids, the guy who'd bring me coffee when I was drowning in work. Portland's rainy charm was the backdrop to our life. Our craftsman bungalow sat on a quiet street, its front porch cluttered with Nora's tricycles and Levi's muddy boots. The city's fog would roll in, blurring the streetlights into soft halos, and I'd feel this deep contentment, like I'd cracked the code to a good life. But then, maybe a year ago, the first cracks appeared. Caleb started coming home late, his tie loosened, his excuses flimsy. "Just a long day at the office," he'd mutter, but he'd quit his retail job by then to help me full-time. Help. Right, he'd fiddle with his phone, tilting the screen away when I walked by, his thumb quick to lock it. Once I caught him smiling at a text, a private little smirk that wasn't for me. "Who's that?" I asked, keeping my tone light. "Just Dylan," he said, too fast, shoving the phone in his pocket. Dylan, his shady business advisor buddy who always smelled like cheap cologne and bad ideas. I tried to brush it off. Running a business is stressful, I told myself. Caleb's just adjusting. But the unease clung to me like damp air. I'd lie awake at night, the rain tapping the window, my mind replaying his clipped answers, his sudden need for space. I'd think about our early days, how we'd stay up late dreaming about the Artisan's Nook, how he'd trace my palm with his finger and promise we'd conquer the world together. Those memories felt like artifacts now, fragile and fading. One night, I found myself staring at a photo on my desk. Me, Caleb, Nora, and Levi at a craft fair, all grins and sunburned cheeks. My chest tightened, like someone had squeezed the air out of me. What was he hiding? Why did his eyes avoid mine? The kids noticed it too, in their own way. Nora, 6, would ask why Daddy was always on his phone. Levi, 4, would cling to me when Caleb snapped at him for spilling juice. I'd hug them close, their little bodies warm against mine, and whisper that everything was fine. But it wasn't. The house felt different, like the warmth had leaked out. I'd walk past Caleb's office, really just a corner of the living room with a desk, and see him hunched over his laptop, typing furiously, closing tabs when I got too close. Just crunching numbers, he'd say. But his voice had this edge like he was daring me to push. I didn't, not yet. I was too busy keeping the Artisan's Nook afloat, juggling orders, and making sure Nora didn't draw on the walls. But the doubt was there, a splinter under my skin, and it was only a matter of time before it drew blood. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. The late nights, the locked phone, the way he'd bristle when I asked about his day. But I was so wrapped up in the business, in being a mom, in holding our life together, that I missed the signs. Or maybe I didn't want to see them. Trust is a funny thing. You cling to it even when it's crumbling in your hands. But that night, staring at the rain-streaked window, I felt something shift. A quiet resolve. Like the moment before you fire a clay pot in the kiln, knowing it'll either hold or break. I wasn't ready to confront Caleb, not yet. But I knew I couldn't ignore the cracks anymore. Something was wrong, and I was going to find out what. The rain kept falling in Portland, each drop a tiny hammer against my nerves. I'm Zoe, and the splinter of doubt about Caleb had festered into something sharp and undeniable. My life, the Artisan's Nook, my kids, our home, was supposed to be my masterpiece. But now it felt like a tapestry unraveling thread by thread. Caleb's late nights and locked phone weren't just quirks anymore. They were signals, and I was done ignoring them. Every time I looked at him, I saw a stranger wearing my husband's face, and it made my stomach churn. His behavior got worse. He'd vanish for hours, claiming he was meeting suppliers for the Artisan's Nook. But when I checked our vendor logs, there were no new contacts. He started dressing sharper. New cologne, pressed shirts, a watch I didn't recognize. "Gotta look the part for the brand, Zoe," he said, flashing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Bullshit. I'd catch him whispering on the phone, stepping outside when I entered the room, his voice low and urgent. One night, I overheard him say, "Madison's got it handled," before he saw me and hung up, his face blank. Madison. The name hit like a slap. He'd mentioned her before, a branding expert he'd hired to elevate our image. I'd never met her, but her name kept creeping into his conversations, always with Dylan. That sleazy sidekick of his who'd pitch get-rich-quick schemes like a used car salesman. I tried to hold on to the past, to the Caleb I fell for. I'd close my eyes and see us in our old apartment before the kids, laughing as we packed market orders on the floor, pizza boxes scattered around. He'd smear clay on my cheek just to make me giggle, his hands warm against my skin. "We're gonna be unstoppable," he'd whisper, and I believed him. That memory stung now, like touching a bruise. How did we go from that to this? I'd watch him with Nora and Levi, tossing them in the air, and wonder if I was imagining things. But then he'd snap at me for asking about his day. Or I'd find him staring at his laptop, his jaw tight, and the doubt would claw its way back. I couldn't take it anymore. One evening, after the kids were asleep, Caleb said he was grabbing drinks with Dylan to talk strategy. Strategy my ass. He kissed my cheek, his lips cold, and left. The house was quiet, just the hum of the fridge and the rain outside. I stared at his desk, that cluttered corner of the living room where he'd been spending too much time. My hands shook as I opened his laptop. His password was still Nora's birthday, thank God. My heart pounded like it was trying to escape my chest. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I clicked through his emails, my fingers clumsy. Most were boring. Vendor invoices, shipping confirmations. Then I saw it, a folder labeled personal. I hesitated, my throat tight. This was crossing a line. But I clicked. Inside was a chain of emails between Caleb and Madison. My eyes burned as I read. "Can't wait for our next meeting," she wrote with a winking emoji. He replied, "Your trouble. Same spot tomorrow?" There were photos, selfies of them at a bar, her arm around his neck, his grin too wide. My stomach twisted, but it got worse. One email from Madison had an attachment, a document titled Artisan's Nook Restructuring Plan. I opened it, and my world tilted. It outlined transferring majority ownership to Caleb and strategic partners, Madison and Dylan, no doubt, with steps to ease Zoe out by convincing me to sign over control for the family's sake. They'd calculated the company's value, $2.50 million, and planned to siphon profits into a separate account. I scrolled, numb, until I saw a line about me. Zoe's too focused on the creative side to notice. I sat there, the laptop's glow harsh against the dark room, my breath shallow. The rain outside sounded louder, like it was mocking me. I remembered Nora's voice earlier that day, small and confused. "Why's Daddy always gone, Mommy?" I'd brushed it off, but now it hit me. She'd seen it too. I dug deeper, my anger rising. Caleb's bank app was still logged in on the browser. There it was, a new account in his name, with $50,000 transferred from the Artisan's Nook's main account over the past 3 months. My money, our money, stolen. I confronted him when he got home, my voice steady despite the fire in my chest. "Who's Madison, Caleb?" I asked, leaning against the kitchen counter, arms crossed. He froze, his keys clattering on the table. "Just the branding girl, Zoe. Why?" His eyes darted away. "Then why is she emailing you about restructuring my company?" I snapped. He laughed, but it was forced, brittle. "You're paranoid. Work's getting to you." He stepped closer, his hand reaching for mine, but I pulled back. "I saw the account, Caleb. 50 grand. Where's it going?" His face hardened just for a second before he softened it. "It's for the business, Zoe. Investments. You're blowing this out of proportion." He turned away, muttering about needing sleep, leaving me in the kitchen, my hands clenched so tight my nails bit into my palms. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, Caleb's snores steady beside me, and replayed every word, every lie. The emails, the money, Madison's smug tone, it was all real. I thought about our wedding, how he'd vowed to protect me, how I'd felt so safe in his arms. Now, those vows were ashes. I wasn't just hurt, I was pissed. He wasn't just cheating, he was trying to steal everything I'd built. I stared at the ceiling, the rain a dull roar, and made a decision. I'd play his game, but smarter. I'd gather more proof, protect my kids, my business, my life. Caleb thought I was too creative to notice. He was about to learn how wrong he was. The truth about Caleb's betrayal hit me like a freight train. My heart felt like it was being crushed under the weight of those emails, that secret bank account, and the smug plan to steal the Artisan's Nook right out from under me. I sat in my office, the fairy lights casting soft shadows on the exposed brick, but the warmth was gone. The rain outside pounded the windows, a relentless drumbeat mirroring the chaos in my head. Everything I'd built, my business, my family, my trust in Caleb was crumbling, and I was drowning in the wreckage. The pain was raw, like a fresh cut that wouldn't stop bleeding. I kept replaying the emails, Madison's flirty tone, Caleb's betrayal laid out in black and white. How could he do this? Not just cheat, but scheme to take everything I'd poured my soul into? I stared at a woven throw on my desk, a gift from a Navajo artisan. Its intricate patterns a reminder of the trust I'd placed in every piece of my business. Now it felt like a mockery. I clutched it, my knuckles white, and let the tears come. They burned my cheeks, each one carrying a piece of the life I thought I had. I was furious, at Caleb, at Madison, at myself for being so blind. How did I miss this? Was I too wrapped up in sourcing ceramics or designing product pages to see my husband slipping away? Doubt crept in, slimy and cold. Maybe I'd caused this. Maybe I'd been too focused on the Artisan's Nook, staying up late to email artisans while Caleb felt ignored. I remembered long nights when he'd ask me to come to bed and I'd wave him off, saying, "Just one more thing." Had I pushed him into Madison's arms? I thought about our early days when we were broke but happy. The day Nora was born, Caleb held my hand through 16 hours of labor, his eyes shining as he whispered, "We made her, Zoe. We're a family." That memory used to feel like a warm blanket. Now it was a knife twisting in my gut. Had that Caleb ever been real? Or was he always waiting for a chance to stab me in the back? I wandered to the kids' room, their soft breaths steady in the dark. Nora's stuffed bunny was tucked under her chin. Levi's tiny hand curled around a toy truck. My chest ached. They didn't deserve this. I thought about the craft fair last summer, Nora giggling as Caleb painted her face with non-toxic dye, Levi toddling after him, begging for a piggyback ride. We'd been a team then, or so I thought. Now, I wondered what lies he'd told them. What poison he might have slipped into their little minds. The thought made my blood boil. I wasn't just fighting for me anymore. I was fighting for them. I couldn't let this destroy us. I wiped my face, the tears leaving a salty sting, and got to work. First, I saved copies of everything: the emails, the restructuring plan, screenshots of the bank account. I uploaded them to a secure cloud drive, my hands trembling but steady enough to click save. I called my sister, Peyton, whispering so I wouldn't wake the kids. "I need you," I said, my voice cracking. "Caleb's. He's trying to take everything." She didn't hesitate. "I'm on my way," she said, and I could hear her grabbing her keys. Next, I texted Isla, our family lawyer, a woman with a razor-sharp mind and a no-nonsense vibe. "Emergency, can we meet tomorrow?" Her reply was instant. 8 a.m. my office. I spent the rest of the night digging. I found more. Text messages Caleb hadn't deleted, forwarded to Dylan about keeping Zoe in the dark. One said, "Madison's got her charmed. We're close." My stomach lurched, but I kept going, recording everything. I checked our security system, a basic setup with cameras at the front door and garage. Caleb didn't know I'd saved the footage to an external drive. There he was, meeting Madison in our driveway, her laugh sharp as she leaned into him. I felt sick, but I downloaded it all. Every piece of evidence was a brick in the wall I was building to protect my kids and my business. By dawn, the rain had slowed to a drizzle, but I was a mess. Eyes puffy, hands cold, heart heavy. I looked at a photo on my desk. Me and Caleb at a market stall, arms around each other, grinning like idiots. It was like staring at a stranger's life. That photo, that marriage was a lie, and the truth was a storm tearing it apart. But I wasn't going down without a fight. I thought about Nora and Levi, their innocent faces, and felt a spark of resolve. Caleb thought he could outsmart me, use my passion for the Artisan's Nook against me. He was wrong. I'd built this company from nothing, and I'd be damned if I let him take it. I stood up, my legs shaky but my mind clear. The rain had stopped, leaving the air heavy with mist. I opened the window, letting the cool breeze wash over me. It felt like a baptism, a cleansing of the hurt and doubt. I wasn't ready to confront Caleb yet. I needed more time, more proof. But I was ready to fight. For my kids, for my business, for myself. The storm wasn't over, but I was done being its victim. I'd weather it, and I'd come out stronger. The moment I'd been dreading and preparing for had arrived. The air in our Portland bungalow felt thick, like the calm before a storm. I stood in my office, the fairy lights dim, surrounded by the handmade treasures of the Artisan's Nook. Ceramic vases, woven baskets, my life's work. Outside, the rain had paused, leaving the streetlights glinting off wet pavement. My hands were steady, but my heart thundered. I'd gathered every piece of evidence: emails, bank records, security footage. Caleb thought he could outsmart me, steal my business, my kids, my life. Tonight, he'd learn he'd underestimated the wrong woman. I'd planned this carefully. Peyton was watching Nora and Levi at her place, their giggles echoing in my mind as I kissed them goodbye. "Be good for Auntie," I'd said, hugging them tight, their warmth grounding me. Isla, my lawyer, had prepped me. "Stay calm, Zoe. Let the evidence speak." I'd nodded, but inside, I was a furnace of rage and hurt. I set up the office deliberately, printed emails stacked neatly on my desk, the laptop open to the bank account, a USB drive with the security footage plugged in. The stage was set. I texted Caleb, "We need to talk. Home, now." His reply was curt. "Fine. Be there in 20. When he walked in, the familiar creak of the front door sent a shiver down my spine. He looked polished. New jacket. That damn watch glinting on his wrist. But his eyes were wary. "What's this about, Zoe?" he asked, tossing his keys on the counter, his tone light but forced. I gestured to the office chair across from me. "Sit," I said, my voice cold as the mist outside. He raised an eyebrow but sat, leaning back like he owned the place. My blood boiled, but I kept my face blank. "Caleb, who's Madison?" I asked, locking eyes with him. My voice was steady, a blade honed, sharp. He laughed, a nervous bark. "We've been over this. She's the branding expert. Why are you so paranoid?" I slid the stack of emails across the desk, watching his face. Then explain these. Can't wait for our next meeting? Photos at bars? You and her plotting to restructure my company? His jaw tightened, but he waved a hand. You're twisting things, Zoe. Those are just work emails. You're overreacting. Overreacting? I snapped, my voice rising. I opened the laptop, pulling up the bank account. 50 grand, Caleb, transferred to your secret account, stolen from the Artisan's Nook. Want to call that work, too? His eyes flickered, a crack in his facade. That's for investments, he stammered. For us, for the kids. I cut him off, slamming the desk. Don't you dare bring the kids into this. I pulled up the restructuring plan, the words glaring on the screen. This says you, Madison, and Dylan plan to take my company. Ease Zoe out, right? Thought I was too creative to notice. He leaned forward, his voice low, almost pleading. Zoe, you're blowing this out of proportion. I was protecting the business. You're too busy to see the big picture. Protecting. The word was a slap. I stood, my hands shaking, and plugged the USB into the laptop. Let's see what the cameras caught then. I hit play. There he was in our driveway. Madison's hand on his arm, her laugh sharp as they whispered about handling Zoe. His face paled, his hands gripping the chair. This isn't what it looks like, he said, but his voice was thin, desperate. Isn't it? I hissed, stepping closer. You cheated, you stole, you lied to me, to Nora, to Levi. You thought you could gaslight me into signing away everything I built. My voice cracked, but I didn't stop. I trusted you, Caleb. I loved you, and you betrayed us. He stood, his face red, trying to regain control. You're unhinged, Zoe. The stress, it's made you crazy. I was trying to help. Help? The lie was so blatant, it almost made me laugh. I pointed to the door. Get out. Isla's got everything. Emails, footage, bank records. You're done. He froze, his eyes wild. You can't do this, he growled. I'm your husband. This is my house, my family. Not anymore, I cut in, my voice steel. You lost that when you chose Madison and Dylan over us. The lawyers are handling it. Leave, or I call the cops. He stared at me, his mouth opening, then closing. For a moment, I saw the man I married, his shoulders slumping, his eyes wet. But it was too late. He grabbed his keys, muttering, This isn't over, and stormed out, the door slamming behind him. I sank into the chair, my breath ragged. The office was silent, the fairy lights flickering like they felt my pain. I'd done it, faced him, exposed him, but victory felt hollow. My hands trembled as I touched the woven throw on my desk, its threads a reminder of what I'd fought for. I thought of Nora and Levi, safe with Peyton, and my resolve hardened. Caleb's lies were unraveling, but I wasn't done. I'd protect my kids, my business, my heart. The storm was breaking, and I was still standing. 6 months after I tore Caleb's lies apart, I'm standing taller than ever. The storm that nearly destroyed me, my marriage, the Artisan's Nook, my trust, has passed, and I'm rebuilding on stronger ground. Portland's rain still falls, but now it feels like a cleanse, washing away the pain and leaving room for something new. My kids, my business, my heart, they're mine again, and I'm shaping a future that's honest, fierce, and full of hope. Caleb's downfall was swift and brutal. After our confrontation, Isla, my lawyer, moved like a hurricane. She presented the evidence, emails, bank records, security footage, to the authorities. Caleb, Madison, and Dylan were charged with organized fraud, perjury, and slander. The courtroom was a circus, Caleb playing the victim, claiming I'd misunderstood his efforts to save the business. But Isla was relentless, her voice sharp as she played the recordings of Caleb and Dylan scheming to control the assets. The security footage of Madison laughing in our driveway sealed it. The judge's gavel fell like a thunderclap. All three were arrested, their assets frozen. Caleb's facing years behind bars, and Madison's branding expert career is toast. Dylan's probably peddling his scams somewhere else, but he's out of my life. I don't gloat, but justice feels damn good. I got the Artisan's Nook back. Full control, no strings. The court lifted the emergency order that had sidelined me, and I dove back in, rebuilding trust with my artisans and customers. That article in the lifestyle magazine, the one that called us America's hidden gem, was a lifeline. Orders poured in, and I used the cash to stabilize the books and pay back the small suppliers Caleb had scammed. I hired a new logistics manager, a no-nonsense woman named Tara, who keeps things tight without stealing my soul. The office feels alive again, fairy lights glowing, my desk cluttered with sketches for a new line of hand-carved wooden bowls. I'm not just surviving, I'm thriving, and the Artisan's Nook is stronger than ever. Nora and Levi are my anchors. They're back home, their laughter filling the bungalow. It wasn't easy at first. Caleb and Madison had whispered lies to them, telling Nora I was too busy to love them, scaring Levi with stories of me leaving. It broke my heart, but Peyton and Dr. Evans, a child psychologist, helped us heal. Nora draws pictures of us now, me, her, Levi, smiling under a rainbow. Levi clings less, his giggles louder as he chases me around the living room. "Mommy's a superhero!" he shouted last week, tackling me with a hug. I cried then, but happy tears. We're a team, the three of us, and I'll fight like hell to keep them safe. The front porch is cluttered again with their toys, and I wouldn't have it any other way. The public's support was a game changer. That magazine article went viral, and customers flooded our site, leaving messages like, "You're an inspiration, Zoe." I used some of the new revenue to start a fund for young women entrepreneurs, helping them navigate the cutthroat world of e-commerce. It's small, but every grant we give feels like a brick in a new foundation. I think about the artisans I work with, their hands shaping clay, weaving threads, and I know I'm carrying their spirit forward. The Artisan's Nook isn't just a business. It's a promise to do better, to be transparent, to lift others up. Portland's light feels different now. The fog rolls in, but it's softer, like a veil lifting. I walk to the farmer's market sometimes, Nora and Levi skipping beside me, and I see the city with new eyes. The streetlights glow warmer, the mist a gentle embrace. One morning, I found a ceramic mug on my desk, left by an artisan I'd helped through a tough spot. Its glaze shimmered like dawn breaking through clouds, a symbol of renewal, of starting over. I hold it when I sip my coffee, its weight grounding me. The cracks in my life are still there, but they're filled with something stronger: resilience, love, truth. I don't hate Caleb anymore. Anger takes too much energy, and I've got better things to spend it on, like brainstorming with Tara, reading to Levi, teaching Nora to weave. I've forgiven him, not for him, but for me, so I can move forward unburdened. The kids ask about him sometimes, and I keep it simple. Daddy made mistakes, but we're okay. They'll understand when they're older. For now, they're happy, and that's enough. Life isn't perfect. There are late nights when orders pile up, moments when I miss the old Caleb, the one who believed in me. But then I look at my kids, at the business I fought for, and I know I'm enough. I'm Zoe, the woman who built the Artisan's Nook from a dream, who faced betrayal and came out swinging. The rain falls, but I'm not afraid of storms anymore. I've got Nora's hand in mine, Levi's laughter in my ears, and a future I'm crafting with every choice, every day. I'm not just surviving, I'm reborn, and I'm writing my own damn story.